Hi, I'm the Pink Pastor. Thank you for joining us today. For those who are returning, thank you. And for those who are joining new, we're glad to have you with us. So, today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to do an interview with a friend of mine. Kenneth and I have been friends for over 20 years. And one of the journeys I've gotten to watch with her is the journey from believer to atheist back to believer. By her own words, she is the failed atheist. And so I just thought we'd talk to her a little bit about that journey today. When we've talked, so like I know that now you teach Bible class for them, and we've had this long discussion about what does it mean to be this person who's really in the progressive Christian camps, leading Bible studies for these 80-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, like the first time they, in 2020, it was February, I'd lost my job, and I went to get counseling and, cry on a shoulder. And Pastor Stacy asked, she said, there's something I want you to pray about. And I was like, uh-oh, okay. And she goes, we're going to have this Lenten series coming up, and I think you'd be a great teacher. I would like you to teach one of the groups. And I went, Stacy, I've been here since July of June of not even 9 months. I said, you know how I am. Like, I've been very honest with you. Like, I am a crazy liberal. I've read all this stuff. I believe that there are contradictions in the Bible. She's like, I know you know that. I'm like, but I think you'd be a great teacher. Just pray about it and think about it. So, I did. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. But before I really made the decision, I called my brother. I was like, okay, Stephen, if I go do this, how do I not, trip myself up and, really have everyone be like, she's a heretic. We just don't need to have her around. He's like, just stay away from the stuff that isn't right or doesn't fit with you. Like, really stay away from, deep philosophical discussions or deep biblical discussions that you feel are problematic. He says, just stay away from the landmines and you're going to be fine. And so I said yes. And it was right before COVID. So I started teaching, and it went great. And then COVID hit, and we had to go digital. And I was the only one of the 4 teachers that felt comfortable going digital. So I got everybody's classes, and I got all the students. And so when the digital part started, I felt the need to, I was like, I need to just come clean with these people. I need to just say, hey, guys, this is who I am. Prepare, you may not want to stick around with me on this. So I started that class. I said, I need to just be upfront. I'm a failed atheist. Spent 20 years trying to do it. I'm a bleeding heart liberal. So just upfront, I was like, I just wanted them to know, because I felt that they needed the right to choose whether or not they wanted to be in there with me, because, they might feel uncomfortable. But nobody bailed on me, and the class actually went really well. And so I did such a good job, they gave me an opportunity last summer to teach whatever I wanted. And I'm like, y'all just gonna give me a blanket,
Right?
pick
Talk about
any.
dangerous.
Well, and I kept waiting for the ministers to join my class the first time to make sure that I was. But nobody checked up on me. Every time they called, I kept waiting for someone to go to tattle on me for having said something, heretical. They didn't, and so I picked teaching the book of Jonah. And I had 13 people in the class, and I started the class out with the same line. I said, hey, crazy liberal here, used to be an atheist, tried to be an atheist. So just up front, know how I am politically. And we went from there, and I basically taught every quarter since then. And the church has been incredibly supportive, even though they know exactly who I am by this point. And it's been an amazing journey, and I've gotten better at sliding things in there on the more liberal side without getting in trouble. But yeah, teaching has really shown me I made the right decision.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your journey. I know not always the most comfortable to talk about,
No.
but at the same time, I think it's an important conversation to.
It is, because one of the things I struggled with when I decided to go back to the church is, do I tell people? because all of my friends, I have friends in the LGBT community, I have Black Lives Matter friends, I have all sorts of friends. Do I hide this? Do I hide that I've stepped back into my faith? And how do I tell them this without them thinking, oh, Kenise now decided to be,
Right.
has taken the crazy pill and is going to be a conservative. Not that conservatives are crazy, but and I really struggled with that. Do I just say that to people? And I finally just posted on Facebook. I said, hey, I just want to let all y'all know I've decided to go back to my faith. I'm attending church again. This doesn't change how I feel about you guys politically or anything. It's just I felt the need to go back to church. And I had a lot of people reach out to me who are in my age group who've struggled with the same thing. Like, well, if you can go back and do this, I can do it. Right. If you can find a place, I can find a place. Which wasn't the reaction I was expecting. So, I'm glad I did that too, because it was a real struggle, because I was very out there as having been an atheist and very vocal about my criticism. And, but I'm glad I made that decision.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things I would really point to is the value of being willing to, because we're all on a journey, being willing to accept that I'm in a different place today than I was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Yeah. I mean, 20 years ago, we were both married. And
yes. 20 years ago, I hadn't had any I didn't know a lot from anything. And
right.
I was just this very naive kid, incredibly naive.
And so, I mean, I think about where both of us have come, right? So I was this white married male in corporate America.
With 3 kids in the house, the white picket fence, and the Subaru or Saab or some practical car. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We both had
with amazing shoes, by the way. I'm going to say that. He had, his suits were great, but he always had the most amazing shoes. I'm going to say that up front. They were fantastic.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, right? So, we both represent journeys.
Yeah. And I remember when you decided to become a minister.
Yeah.
You called to tell Ian and wanted him to write a recommendation. And Ian comes upstairs to me, and he's like, Kit just called, and he's decided to become a Lutheran pastor. He's going to try to go to Ohio State. And I was like, oh, that's fantastic. What was his inspiration? What was his road of Damascus moment? Like, what happened? And Ian was just like, I don't know what you're talking about there, but he just decided to do it, and he wants me to write a recommendation. I don't know if I should. And I'm like, well, you've known him the longest. He's like, but I'm, me. And I'm like, you mean the fact that you're Jewish? And he's like, well, that and atheist, what if I keep him from getting into the seminary? And I'm like, well, darling, I don't think they're looking for you to recommend him on a spiritual front. But he was really concerned, and I was so proud of you. I thought it was the coolest thing. And then when you went off and got your own, started doing your own ministry in church, and I got to see you preach in Miami, and I was just impressed.
Yeah, right. So, and of course now I'm at a place where I don't have a congregation. This is my congregation and my ministry, and we're just building a new group of people to be together, and with me as myself,
which I, by the way, love. I love this.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been good. So I wanted to say thank you all for watching. Keith is a good friend, a dear friend, and I really appreciate her journey, but I also wanted to bring this conversation to this space because I think it's an important conversation to have for 2 reasons. One is our faith changes over time, and that's okay. We as people change over time, and that's okay. And if we're really going to be open about who we are and about allowing everybody to be who they need to be, then these conversations need to continue happening. In part so we can see what other people are doing and start to go, that makes sense and that doesn't. And, that's okay. Wherever you're at on your journey, be glad you're there and know that it's a journey, and you just continue on. So.
And you're not the only one.
No.
And that's the thing I found out. You're not the only one going through what you went through.
Right.
And we think that we're so isolated in our situation. And we surprisingly aren't. You know someone else who's struggling with the same thing. It's just someone would say out loud what they're going through would make all the difference in the world.
Right.
We keep all that stuff bottled up. And I think that's, maybe it's Americans or whatever why we do it. But just saying, hey, I have this problem, or I'm going through this journey, or I'm having this question. There's somebody else
who's in exactly the same spot and needs to hear your voice so that they know they're not alone.
Yeah, because that's the worst thing is when we feel like we're alone in whatever crisis we're going through.
Yeah. So, to close, I'm the Pink Pastor. You can find me on social media, Facebook, Pink Pastor 365, Gmail, if you want to send me an email, pinkpastor365 at Gmail, or you can find me on Instagram, Pink Pastor. That's where I get more regular updates. I try to post here every Friday, and depending on how I'm doing, that may or may not happen. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Kenneth, for sharing with us.